Hello again, everyone. I'm Rob Johnson, president of Rob Johnson Communications. Welcome to Can You Hear Me? We have a special episode for you today. My co-host Eileen Rochford is away for today's podcast, so we're going to be joined by some of the top marketing professionals at her marketing and strategy firm, the Harbinger Group. Today's topic will follow up on episode 41's discussion about whether AI chatbots are the future of content creation. Today, we invite Kellie Kennedy, Karol Skoczen, and Emily Evans to the program. They've been testing various AI chatbot platforms like ChatGPT, Bing, Bard, and they join us now to discuss their experiences. It's so nice to have all of you on the program. Thanks for joining us today.
Great to be here.
Yeah, very excited to talk about this.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you all on because you're front and center on this. So just to give our listeners a little background, Kellie and Emily spend most of their days on strategy and content creation. Emily, in particular, also focuses on social media. Karol's purview is design and production. In fact, she produces all of the Can You Hear Me infographics for each of our episodes. So we always appreciate that. And I know Eileen has tasked all of you to figure out how to utilize this tool in your day-to-day content creation. So what are you finding with this? Kellie, let me start with you.
Sure. I really think that AI, it's a starting point. It's going to help us all become better practitioners. But what I'm finding is that it's not necessarily the finished product. So, we've been using AI for things like media monitoring and analysis for quite a while now, but now it's getting even more sharp. The Muck Rack has a tool called Press Pal AI, and that asks for the topic of a press release. So you can just type in the topic, and then in 30 seconds, it drafts a press release, which is more or less an outline. And then what I also like about it is it shares target reporters who might be interested in that topic. So there's a lot of different ways that I'm using it, from brainstorming ideas to summarizing data, because the Harbinger Group, we do a lot of deeper analysis with clients to make sure that our communications plans and strategy is in tune with, what the media is currently covering and what news is out there. And so we're finding ways to be more efficient in how we do that analysis. And AI is certainly helping with that. There are tools like WordTune that will help rewrite and edit copy that I find really useful too. And I'll let Karol and Emily jump in here too, but I think that there are a lot of really neat opportunities here, but it's just important to remember that it helps us get started, but it's not the be all and end all. We have to, as humans, we are the ones who make it great. And AI gives us a boost to doing that, but it's not the final answer.
And really, that's what Eileen and I were talking about on the last episode was, this has great qualities. And as I mentioned, it's evolving right before our eyes. I mean, as we're using it, it's changing and it's improving, but still you can't lose the human touch there. So Emily, what's your experience been with this?
So far, I would definitely second what Kellie has said. It's a great just starting place. So for us at the Harbinger Group, we do a lot of batch content creation for social media for our clients. So we're planning months in advance for some of the campaigns that run year round that we'll need content for. So that can kind of be a daunting task when you're writing what feels like you're writing about the same topic, maybe 10 to 20 social media posts. Like how many times can I say this differently? So AI it's made it a lot faster for me to crank out some of these posts. It's a great place to start. And it gives me new ideas that maybe I hadn't thought of before. Like, oh yeah, that's a great way to start that post. But I do find I take every post and craft it to make it our own and make it our client's voice. So it hasn't totally robbed me of my creativity in getting to express that, but it definitely is helpful in our process.
And you don't want it to rob you of that. I mean, one of the scary things is, is AI going to put all of us out of business? And I think the answer is no. It's just a tool that will be very, very helpful in terms of sending you on the right path. But yeah, you're not going to crank out that press release that you asked one of the chatbots to do, and then say, well, that's it. Nobody needs to look at it. It's fine. I mean, you have to go through there, make it your, as you said, make it your client's own, put in your creative flair, and but it can be a partner in what you're doing. So Karol, I know you look at it maybe a little bit differently because you're more on the production and the graphic side, but how has AI, how have the chatbots, how has AI in general, I should say, been helpful to you?
I would say that, well, without repeating everything that Emily and Kellie have said, because those are also very prevalent in the work that I do, especially when we're making batch content design for our clients. And it's just like, how do I, how do I make this graphic interesting? I can definitely ask the bot very silly questions and I can phrase it however I want, which is what has been really useful to me, because I can just ask, hey, so like, how do I how do I do this thing? Or what does this thing mean? Or I can look up like what a certain Photoshop feature does and it will just bark back an answer, which is great because Adobe products for non-designers are quite hefty and difficult to kind of process all at once. So having a bot at my side and me without being embarrassed, going ahead and asking a very simple question on how to do a very simple operation on a program that is very scary, for instance, Premiere, which I've been learning lately, it's been super helpful. Like I feel like my skills and my the assets that I have make more sense together now because I can ask a bot at any point, at any time I need to, if I want to make a certain thing.
But you want to be clear too. It's not doing the work for you. It's providing you tools that help you do your work, or ideas, or different kinds of concepts that will help you put together better work. Isn't that right, Karol?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I'm more highlighting it as I treat it more like a teacher, more like a, hey, how do I use this thing? And then it tells me how to.
Yeah.
Rather than doing a task for me.
That is
Right.
real. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it really makes things better. I love that I can type in a social post or a press release and they have tools that will make it sound even better. There will be, sometimes I can be a bit long-winded in my writing. And so there's a tool that I can type in a sentence and say, make this more concise, and it will. And whether it is to my liking and gets the point across, that's up to me to then go back and edit it. But it takes some of the time that it would take me going back and forth trying to shorten it. This bot does it. And a lot of times it's really strong, but the ultimate decision is up to me in terms of what I'm presenting to the client. And so I also think that because AI creates more efficiencies, that we as practitioners can spend our time focused on other elements of a client campaign that will help them. So we're not necessarily spending as much time writing a press release because maybe AI is giving us some more guidance there, but that we can instead spend more time looking at other opportunities to get them out in the media or external in whatever way that might be. So that's another big benefit of AI.
And I know Eileen is keen on the efficiency piece, and that's why she likes it so much. And that's why I think you all are using it to the degree that you are. That's a really great point. I wonder how you all balance the convenience and efficiency of being able to quickly synthesize information as you've been doing and staying up on trends with the risks of redundancies and false information getting out there. How do you all weigh that challenge? Emily?
Well, I have found you do have to be, I guess, kind of a skeptic when you're reading what it generates for you, and you have to be thorough in how you're proofreading and fact checking it. I do like that Bing Chat provides, the websites where it sources the information from. I've found in some of the social media posts I've tried to create that it will cite a source, an organization with the same name as our client. But I'm like, I don't think the program deadline lines up with that date. Let me double check. And it is indeed another organization in the United States with the same name. So it is, I've found, really important to really fact check and ask questions for every little piece of information it generates. But also I know we mentioned being fearful that it could take away jobs and creativity. I started out with a little bit of fear. So I'm turning now to be a little bit more optimistic about the efficiencies it can provide. But yeah, definitely important to proofread and double, triple check.
Yeah, no question, whether you have a bot helping you or whether you're just doing your work on your own. Karol, what do you think about this, making your job simpler and staying on top of trends versus misinformation, redundancies, different things of that nature?
I mean, staying on top of trends is really important, especially in marketing. We need to stay on top of those. And I think AI allows us to do our, I would say, preliminary research. So you could ask, like, let's say you are doing work for a client that is trying to find things related to them on TikTok. You could definitely find something by asking it, but with in keeping in mind that there are risks and a lot of misinformation, and that the sources are not always the best. You have to look into them and see if those trends are actually popular on the website. So I honestly treat it as a baseline, like a starting point. Just what is popular, so I can keep that in mind. Even in design, like what kind of aesthetics are popular right now, corporate aesthetics, whether that be like fashion aesthetics. I think the big main thing is just looking into it, being super vigilant about what information you're getting. So very much echoing what Emily has been saying. I like the fact that you are able to get a starting point in your research on trends, but I wouldn't trust it all the way. Just echoing what Emily has said thus far.
Yeah. And what about you, Kellie?
I agree. I think it's just important that we remember that basically AI is scraping the internet for content, mixing it up and spitting it back to you. And not everything on the internet is accurate. And we know that, you and Eileen talked about this last week, that there are some bots that don't gather information beyond 2021. So when we're talking about trends and more updated information, that's a consideration to have as well.
Yeah, because you still have to do the work, even though we're all like, what's the future here? And the future is right before our eyes, and it's changing every week right now, which is a little daunting, but it's also a little exciting. But just having good basic premises about how you do your work. This is kind of repeating what I said earlier about this can be a great tool. It's not the complete answer. So last episode, Eileen discussed how important it was to input specific language to get the desired output, and also how you, as the user, might have to teach the chatbot specific terms and feed it the information to get something back that would be useful to you. Are you all of that mindset? Kellie, what do you think about the idea of the more information I can give it, the better piece of writing I'm going to get back?
Absolutely. The output is only as good as the prompts that you give it. And in many ways, it's a trial and error. And I think that's what Karol and Emily and I have experienced so far. But the more detailed and specific prompts you get, the more relevant information you're going to get in response. As a quick example, I was looking for an inspirational quote, and I think I typed in something like share an inspirational quote that I can send to my team. And the quote mentioned failure. And so then I had to go back and say, I don't want to mention failure. I want to, be more
positive here.
Exactly. So you've got to go back. And I realized that I wasn't specific enough in my language. And I think using action verbs like optimize this post for LinkedIn, write this blog article about, and that about is really important. You need to give the specifics beyond just write a blog about the healthcare industry, because then you're going to get a lot of nonsense. But the more descriptive you can be and specific, the better off you'll get in terms of results, and even being quantifiable. I will say list the top 10 healthcare technology media outlets in the United States, just as an example. And that's helpful too when I give some numbers to frame it as well.
No, that's a really great point. And probably my favorite moment in the last podcast with Eileen is when she asked the chatbot to talk about the Can You Hear Me podcast that we're on here. And it was very generic, but it made the point that she was trying to make, which was the less information you give it, it spat out some things. And I was like, and when she was reading it to me, I was like, who is this? I don't even know who it was. And then it gave like a website that didn't exist. It was the point was well made. The more information you give the chatbot, the more specific info you can give, the better content you're going to get on the back end. So, Emily, what do you think about all of this?
I do agree. You need to put in the most descriptive prompts that you can to get a better output. There was a lot of trial and error for me when I first started generating social media posts. And I did notice when I started to say, okay, knowing I needed to promote a program and promote how to apply for this program for a client, I asked the AI technology, can you please tell me about this program? And then when I saw that the information was generally correct, I asked, okay, well, how can you apply for this program? And so I tried to ask some questions to get all the main points I wanted to promote in a post. And then I asked it, okay, thank you. I like to tell it thank you as well.
That's nice.
I like to be polite to it. I hope it gives me some good karma back.
Does it work? Does it work when you do that?
It usually does. It's usually very it's like, hey, thank you for thanking me. So then I'll say, based on this information provided, could you provide me with 8 social media posts for LinkedIn? Or I try to be as specific as possible. And then I found I have better social media posts, more accurate posts after prompting it to give me information from the get-go, if that makes sense.
So will it be like social media posts for like will you name the client like hello AI, would you please give me 8 social media posts for company X? Or do you have to be more specific than that around some of the specific work being done by that company?
I do try to be even more specific. Can you give me some information around company X in this location, even because I found there are obviously companies with the same name all over the world, really. And I try to be as specific as possible, even about the particular program I'm asking for information about, to get the title of that correct. And that usually helps generate better responses.
So Karol, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to add one more thing is I've also found that with social in particular, the tone is really important. And there are tools that will help you with the tone. It can say, you can write something or ask it to write something in a sarcastic tone, in a humorous tone, in a professional, informative tone, which again, for social is really helpful.
Oh, it is. It is, no question. So Karol, from a design standpoint, when we're sitting here talking about feeding information and giving it the guidance it needs, what has your experience been and how helpful is it the more information you give the chatbot?
So I've actually I have a few project / chats with ChatGPT 3, which is OpenAI's model. Yeah. And so the difference between Bing Chat and OpenAI is that in OpenAI, you can have separate little tabs, chats that go on for an infinite amount of time about any topic. And then Bing AI, I believe you only get 20 messages that you can send per topic to the bot. So I've been using both bots in conjunction to kind of feed ChatGPT 3, OpenAI's bot, more info so that it can retain it. And then whenever I come back to it, so spoiler alert, I have one for Can You Hear Me? And
I was hoping I didn't want to pry during the taping of this, but this is wonderful to hear. Anyway, go ahead.
I have one for Can You Hear Me? So I've been teaching the bot who you are, Rob. And the bot now knows that you are Rob Johnson from RJ Communications, and knows all this information about you, your like where you have been in your career and what are your expertises and how you've helped out the Harbinger Group. So whenever I ask it to write me a draft for a social copy, which I do for Can You Hear Me,
Yes, you
actually.
do. And we're very grateful for that.
I love helping, so I'm happy to be here. But whenever I ask it to, it tends to give me more accurate responses every time, including like small little tidbits about you and Eileen, which has been very helpful. However, if I did this alone with like Bing Chat,
It wouldn't
Bing
work.
Chat wouldn't work. It would just give me the information that it could look up.
So to clarify, what you're saying is the Chat GPT is retaining information that you keep feeding it, and so it's an ongoing process. And so
Correct.
the more you type in Rob Johnson information, the more it's spitting out and the more accurate it's getting. But some of these other ones don't have that. So that's very interesting that the OpenAI would have that, and that you're teaching it to the point we're making. You're teaching it and it's retaining it, and each time you're able to get an even better and better product. That's what it sounds like you're talking about.
Exactly. And despite OpenAI using an older version, and for clarity, they developed ChatGPT. So they haven't released their fourth version, but it is available to use, and that's what Bing AI uses.
Yeah.
So sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought.
No,
My point was my point was that ChatGPT 3 is still better because OpenAI is consistently developing it. So although they halted development on ChatGPT 5, I believe 4 is going to be available for the public use, and it will retain the information even better because it will have access to search engines, which ChatGPT 3 currently does not have.
Interesting.
And one very interesting thing about ChatGPT 3 is its training stopped in about 2021, 2022, early 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the information that it knows is from 2022 and prior.
I did see that in one of the articles researching it for the last episode, and I was like, "That's it." I thought everything we're doing is supposed to be like in real time here.
Yep. But you can teach it new things. So because it has a very large user base, if you continue asking it questions, even acknowledging the fact that, yes, I understand that this is what people have taught you, you can get current information out of the bot and teach it current information, and it will retain it.
That's really interesting. All right. I'm going to ask specifically about social media, Emily. From that aspect, I know you've already talked about it a little bit, but how are these AI applications able to write the social media posts and then maybe suggest videos and marry interviews as well? I mean, you've talked about having them help you write things, but in terms of incorporating, say, video and interviews as well, how helpful is it?
I do think it is helpful. While I wish I've not had any success uploading, let's say, a 30-minute transcript to an interview that I did. I wish I could do that, but there's too many characters when you enter it. However, I have discovered it to be very helpful. I can take snippets from the transcript and ask ChatGPT, Bing Chat, can you please generate a social media post? Actually, let me rewind, because you know what I have to do first? I have to prompt it to summarize. Please summarize this text. So it will summarize that bit of the transcript. And then after that, I will prompt it to generate a social media post based on that summary. Or I could even really take the summary and tweak it, make it my own social media post anyway. I've just found it very helpful to just generate content more quickly.
Well, for marketers that are probably intimidated by this or know that they have to go down this road, I think the information you all are giving right now is so vital because it's like your experience. You're sharing your experiences that are going to be really helpful, I think, to people that will listen to this. So let's talk about the capability, because we touched upon it in the last episode, Eileen and I did, being able to create an entire website. And I'm actually working with a client right now, and we're doing marketing from the ground up, right? And one of the things we're working tirelessly on is the website. And the developer said he's the one that was like, you should really embrace this. And so once he said it, I have, and I've just been like, just playing around with it and trying to figure out how it can work for me. But he's the developer, right? How realistic is the ability to create a website, Karol? Is that something that it can do? And when somebody says it can create a website, I can't exactly see it, but I think it sounds terrific.
It's actually very realistic. So the bot can code. I've seen articles even talking about the bot coding itself, which is insanity. So the bot, if you feed it information about what you want your website to be, it can output a website outline for you. And this is with OpenAI's bot specifically. I haven't tested this out with Bing's, but if you ask it to write HTML and give the website outline to it, it will write you HTML that works. If you feed it photos and different graphics, color schemes, you need to give it specifically hex codes. It will output a HTML file that will give you the website. And while it can't host the website, you have to figure out that by yourself. It will design it a fully functioning website for you. Although I will say a little disclaimer that I have very little experience in coding. The only thing I really have is UI experience. So my HTML experience is very little, but I have been interacting with a bot. And
are you nice to your bot too? Are you nice to your bot? Like,
I am.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I thank it. I say sorry whenever I say something wrong. I'm just yeah, no, it's really helpful. And I have a Can You Hear Me website.html on my desktop right now. So coming soon, possibly.
I am so, yes. And listen, no two people would be more excited about that than Eileen and me. So we are grateful for all that work, and we are excited to think about the future of this podcast, but also how AI is going to help create that. So as we wrap things up here, I would like each of you to kind of share your best advice for people who want to, like I said earlier, might be a little intimidated. They're beginning to use this. And so how has this helped you, and what do you need to watch out for? I know, Kellie, you haven't spoken in a while, so let's start with you, because I know this is something that you're thinking about on a daily basis.
Absolutely. There was a recent report called the State of Marketing and Sales AI. And in that report, it noted that 63% of the respondents said that the biggest barrier to AI for them was lack of education and training. And so I think we've all talked about being a little bit weary of AI. And my biggest piece of advice would be just go explore it and see what it can do, and talk with others like we're doing today to get their insights about how to use it. Because this is, so new to so many people that the more information gathering and sharing, I think the better in terms of how to really leverage it for work. And again, I would just emphasize that use AI to make you better at your job, not to do your job for you.
That's really a great point. And having you all on talking about this, it's not like, oh gosh, you all are the biggest experts in the entire world. It's like this, you are doing this every day, and this is current for you. So the information you're sharing, because this technology is so quickly evolving, is truly important to hear. And so I'm really fascinated by everything that you all have to say in that regard. So Emily, you tell me how has this really helped you be better at your job, and what are the pitfalls?
I do think it's helped me to be better at my job because it's helping me to generate content more. I would say, especially for more of the tasks that sometimes they're repetitive and they can take a lot of time and therefore a client's time. So it's helped me to perform a lot of those tasks more quickly. I think the pitfalls are, yes, you have to double check things for accuracy. So I would advise anyone to definitely be thorough, definitely double, triple check what it generates for you. And yeah, I would also encourage anyone to just explore, read the articles coming out about all of the different apps that are available. I know we use it even for tasks. There's a Google Chrome extension. I think it's called Tactique, and it transcribes your Google Meet meetings. And then after it transcribes them, you can ask it to generate an AI summary. And then you can ask it to generate action items, generate the next meeting's agenda. That's been really helpful for some of our meetings with our clients, because rather than sitting back after a client meeting and running through my notes of what did we talk about, maybe asking my colleague, did I get this right? Did they say this? I have it all right in front of me in a transcript, and I can generate a summary and then crank out an email to our client.
Is this the same thing that Eileen, like she'll show up to a meeting, sometimes we'll be in a meeting, she won't be there, but she will send her transcription. It'll have, Eileen Rochford or whatever, but the transcription, is that the same thing we're talking about? Or is that a different one? Because I love when she sends her transcription technology to the meeting, even though she may not be there, just so she can figure out what's going on. Since we can't clone her, it's the second best thing. Is that the same? Is that similar to what you're talking about, Emily?
I believe so. Every time anyone would log in from my account, since I have it downloaded, or Eileen I know has it downloaded, it comes up in the chat and says, "Hi, I'm your automated tactique. I'm transcribing this conversation so Emily or Eileen can give their full attention to you." It's very polite.
That's wonderful. Again, I think our takeaway here is you got to be polite. You got to be nice and collaborative, right? So Karol, as we wrap this up here, what do you think about what it's done to help you in your job and the things that you need to be aware of?
So I think I'd like to start this by saying that AI has been here for a while, and I've always been kind of anticipating the popularity of AI, especially in mainstream media and in our in the office, in the workspace. So it has been really helpful. It's a very helpful organizational tool. It's a very helpful quick analysis tool. It makes working so much easier, so much quicker, and staying on top of your tasks is great. However, it was touched on the last episode. I think ethics still need to be a huge thing on everyone's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my main takeaway, and every time I use the AI, I always wonder, am I hurting someone's work by doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I have been staying away from image generation AI in particular. But other than that, I think it is a very great tool if you are using it with the intent of using it as a guide, a helper, a teacher, a source, rather than your personal work bot.
Oh, that's so important. You all have been absolutely amazing. Kellie Kennedy, Emily Evans, and Karol Skoczen. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise, because you're right in front of this every day. And I know people that are listening to this are going to find so much of the information valuable. So thank you all for being a part of this today.
Thanks for having us, Rob.
Yeah, thank you.
It's our pleasure. So, like to thank the Harbinger Group marketing whizzes for joining us on the podcast today. For Eileen Rochford, I'm Rob Johnson. We thank you for listening. And remember, you can get Can You Hear Me wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more.